In the last session, we combined energy, contour, balance, rhythm and repetition, or motifs basically, to produce some melodies. And as we found out there, some were a little more memorable than others. In fact, we found out that if we employ just a few techniques, we come up with a melody that it sounds well, but it isn't exactly memorable. It doesn't imprint itself on our minds. And we also found that if we employ all the techniques that we've discussed throughout this DVD, then we do actually come up with something that could be memorable, a melody that is working its way into our minds. Now I say could there because, well, basically at this point, they still don't sound too great, and that's basically because we haven't applied any synthesis or processing to the tone bridge yet. They've certainly improved since the first few sessions where we first started examining the theory, but they're still not sounding fantastic. Well, our journey into the musical theory of melodies is almost complete, but there's one final aspect that we do need to quickly run over, and that's the use of dynamics. Basically, how we use dynamics to make our melodies sound professional. When I speak about dynamics, I'm talking about the uses of velocity, duration, accents, modulation of pitch, and modulation wheels on your keyboard. Just a few simple techniques using these will convert something that sounds amateur into something that does sound professional. Now, obviously, there's literally thousands of different ways to add dynamics to your melodies, so I can't possibly cover them all here. But what I want to do here is just introduce you to the difference it can make to a melody, to put you on the starting line, I suppose, and from there you can then take that and experiment further with it all. You can say basically that dynamics are perhaps the most important fundamental element to making music your own. To make the music that you write feel entirely different from somebody else who's written exactly the same thing. You see, the fact is that no one plays music exactly the same. We all play it differently. We all inject our own emotion into a piece of music, and that's vitally important for making music that sounds like it was written by a human and not by some computer. In fact, dynamics are so important that even the smallest adjustment to a melody or any part of a record, it can make a vast difference to the feel of your music. So in this session, we'll have a quick look at how we can use some dynamics. And the first thing I want to look at is that feel. Basically, feeling in music terms, it means a different musical impression in the rhythm. Swing and groove quantized, they're types of feel. Just a few notes occurring off the beat or just before the beat can have a massive influence on a melody. I'll show you what I mean with this. Actually, this is the melody that we programmed in the last session, the final melody. So just have a listen. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here and I'm just going to change the timing of some of the notes. Not by much. I'm only going to move them by a little bit. I've turned off the quantize up there. I'm just going to move them around. Just have some occurring before the beat. And we can set some just that little bit later. We'll set that one just before, actually. That one would probably be excited at this point. When Rich Bar 2 were quite excited with our melody, so we'd probably hit it a bit sooner if we were playing it live. We can start that one on the beat, really. Try this one. Just go back a little bit. Forward. Whoops. Turn that off there. Send that one back a little bit. Grab all these and I think we'll send them all a little bit forward in time. And grab those. Just move back. Probably move that one a bit forward. Just guessing here, just picking out the odd note and moving it around just to give it something of a rhythm, just a bit more freedom of it. Start again. let's try that now. Let's listen to that and the difference that that's made. Now, you should have heard there that we've changed the feeling of the melody there. It's sounding a little bit rushed in places and a little bit laid back in others. And all we've basically done there is just moved the notes around just by small amounts, just by a very small amount. And that's changed the feel of our melody altogether. So you've got to learn that you don't have your notes occurring bang on every beat all the time. With your melodies especially, just start to move them around a little and give it a little bit more of a feel. Now, you can, of course, there use your sequencers, groove quantize or the swing settings, but personally, I avoid them because, well, I don't need a computer to groove a piece of music for me. I can do it myself. Don't get me wrong with me saying that. I'm not being a sequencer Luddite there, but no computer or software, no matter how great it is going to replace my emotions, my feeling of timing, my groove. So, on a personal level, I'd recommend grooving it yourself. Listen to what you're doing, and as you add groove to the melody, listen how it changes. I mean, the music's yours, so it should sound how you want it to sound, and you shouldn't have to rely on a sequencer to second guess these rhythms or how you might want it to sound. Now, alongside our feel there, we've also got velocity. Now, basically, your musical style is marked mostly by how you choose to use your velocity. So just how changing the rhythm here affected the feel of the music, so does the velocity. By that I mean, if you gave every musician on the planet a piano and the very same piece of music and you said play it back, I can guarantee that every single musician would deliver a totally unique performance through the uses of velocity and in the timing. For example, listen to this. This is Beethoven's, I'll call it Moonlight Sonata for you. It's Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata performed by a computer. Have a listen to this. Now here's the same piece again, performed by a real musician. You can hear the difference there. The musician added emotion to the piece. He played it as he felt it. He didn't just hit the note one after the other. He listened to it and he put his own emotion into the piece through his rhythm and his velocity. Now, basically, when we work with velocity, we can split it into three basic concepts: accent, crescendo, and decrescendo. Now, basically, what that means is if we accent a single note in a melody, if we just increase, say, this there, we just take that up, what we've done is we've accented that note. Now we could go different from that. We could say, well, if we do a gradual increase in velocity, for example, like that, that's now a crescendo. It's building up, it's going quieter to louder. And then we could do the same again here, and we could go louder to quieter, all the way along there. And that's decrescendo. Now, you'll notice there that what I've done is, as the notes come down, I've gone louder. As the notes go up, I've gone quieter. Now, that's not a written rule. I just like to play like that. So basically, I'm emulating how I like to play. But listen to this piece now with these velocity changes in here, and you'll see what I mean. I'll put that on quite hard on because it's our first note. Just listen now to the difference this makes. we can hear there again how that sounds even more human now. We've got that feel in it. I've entered my own dynamics into that. And it's flowing. It's now got a human feel. It sounds like a human has played that rather than a computer. Now, just as important as velocity there is another one called note duration. Now, you may be sat there thinking that, well, note duration is pretty much set as you write. If you're using eighth notes, then you set the duration to eighth notes. If you use 16ths, then your duration is 16ths. And well, that is true in a way, but when we play an instrument, we don't hit an eighth note perfectly. As I touched upon with rhythm, we can't be expected to hit on the pulse every pulse, and the same can be said of duration. We can't be expected to hit, for example, a perfect eighth note every single time. It just doesn't happen. It's not human. And because of that, we sometimes need to take note duration into account, especially if we're working with melodies, since these are the centre point of the music. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to adjust the duration of some of these notes. I'm going to make some that little bit longer and possibly some of that little bit shorter. Just have a quick play. Let's just have into that beginning bit now. That's sounding much better already. It's got more of a feel to it, more human. Let's do a stabby one. Stabby there. There we go, and let's listen back to that now. And straight away again there, it's got more human in it, there's more life in it, it sounds realistic now, it sounds like it's actually been played in rather than just stamped in following a number of theories. Now on top of all that as well, we also need to take into account pitch bend and the modulation wheel on your keyboard. Basically, I mean, if two notes are overlapping like they are there, you see them overlapping there, well, why not use a tiny amount of pitch bend just to slur that up into that next note there and just give it that little bit of life to it? Or we could map the modulation wheel to our filter and then just adjust the filter by very small amounts as it plays. Now, I'm not running into a lot of examples there. I'm not going to start pitch bending all these because, well, I could quite easily spend 1 or 2 hours on this now, humanising it, putting little bits of pitch bend in, little bits of modulation, little bit of changes. And basically, I'm not going to do that because at the fundamental level now, we're speaking about our own individuality. The principle of dynamics is such a personal and creative endeavour that I can't just sit here and say, do this, do that, and do this, and watch me. And I'm simply mentioning dynamics here because it forms a structural part of the music. It's what gives your music its feel. It's what makes the music yours. So once you've written down some melodies, once you've followed our theories and you've stamped in your notes and you've got that theory right and it's more memorable, then you have to jump in with your dynamics. Before you jump in with synthesis and processing, introduce dynamics into your melodies, because if you don't, your melody will be less memorable and it'll come across as more amateur rather than professional.